We are officially going to start off by saying you are tuned into 91.3 WVKR, independent radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. It is 4:59 p.m. We're here each and every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m., broadcasting from the beautiful college campus at Vassar College. And also the show, all the interviews will be uploaded on YouTube, the Rita Ryan LocalMotion YouTube channel, as well as the LocalMotion Facebook page, should you miss any of this. I am so thrilled to have John Burdick as my guest today. I want to start off by playing a track of his, and then we're going to talk to him because we've got him on the phone already. So let's learn more about him. But first, let's always start off by playing some music. This is from the band The Seed Project, and it's newly released, just released January 21st of this year, released on Subfamily Records. Let's take a listen to Complicate here on 91.3 WVKR.
Said that all the girls in the promising bands are floated by a bloody hand, but I'm not sure if it's always been that way. But I've been around Green Lawn for far too long to believe their flow is anything more than a quarter pound of white prerogative. Never believe the words of the victors when they're selling you the secrets that made them who they think they are today. Behind the squinting eyes of westerns, and there's a company man buttoned in the left and the right, old college friends like Gore Vidal said. Such a dream. When they sing their songs, when they talk of fates forgone, are they all? Would you like a night to complicate? Would you like a night to complicate?
91.3 WVKR Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York, 5:04 p.m. We just heard brand new music, Complicate by the Seed Project. Now let's get John on the phone. John?
Hey, Rita.
Hey. Oh, good. It's always a good start when you don't disconnect your guest, So we're only going up from here, John, my friend. So thank you. And thanks for your time today. Thank you for sending me all this cool music that you're involved with. And just want to tell people, as I did when I started the show at 4 o'clock, you're a songwriter, guitarist with the Sweet Clementines. You guys have been around for a long time. You also starting this new solo project, which we'll talk about in great depth, Unitas, and you're the current lead guitarist with Rhett Miller's. Of course, he's the old 97 singer, and he's got a solo band, which you're a part of, and lots of other great things, as well as being the co-founder of this Hudson Valley Collective Subfamily Records. And not only that, if that isn't enough, you're also a longtime music critic and book reviewer with Ulster Publishing and Hudson Valley One. So I don't think you're ever bored, are you?
No, and it's been kind of cool because while I've been active in music my whole life, this renaissance, if you can call it that, is all really kind of taken shape after the age of 45. And I feel really fortunate.
Yes,
that's the case.
Yes, yeah, very well put. It feels like everyone's breathing a fresh bit of air right now. So, yeah, it's very cool, very cool. I always like to start off. I like to go back. Sometimes I say, "This is your life." John Burdick, and just talk to me about your youth and your coming into music, and you're obviously such an eloquent writer. Tell me about your beginnings. I know you're a guitarist. When did music come into your world?
Well, via my father, music was just it was like oxygen in our house, and but my road into it was a little bumpy because my brother, older by 3.5 years, he claimed the identity of the music guy, before I even really had a shot at claiming it. And I sort of felt kind of like when we were young and we were listening to the Beatles and you had to choose which one you were. And when you were young, we all wanted to be Paul, but my brother took Paul, and so you pick what's left. So I think, not to over dramatize it, but I think the fact that my brother was so all in on music and still to this day has never done anything else, kind of made me feel like I needed to look in other directions. I don't know why. There's something sort of recessive about my nature there, a little, deferential. Mm-hmm. But I always knew, it was something I wanted to do. And I learned to play, and I wasn't nearly as active as he was in high school bands. And
was guitar your first instrument?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh-huh. My father was a jazz pianist, but guitar. We were both guitarists. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really start kicking it into gear until, and this will be of interest to the musicians in your listenership, until I bought a 4-track recording deck. Ah. And so when suddenly the game wasn't just being as flashy a guitarist as my brother, which I knew wasn't going to happen, when it became writing, arranging, recording, when suddenly that whole domain was available to me, and I was out in my early 20s when that happened. Uh-huh. So that's when I started to take it seriously, and it would still take me years before I take it seriously enough to get out with it,
Right. And what about writing? Because you're so damn good at it.
Yeah, I think that, when I said, my brother took the identity of musician. So
you took, you took it
was there, and I didn't really embrace it at first, but that's what I studied in college and mm-hmm. later in grad school. But I guess the funny story was I always resisted writing at all about music, just for the very same reason that someone who aspired to be an actor doesn't want to go into wardrobe or set design. You know what I mean? It's like that close to the thing you love, but not the thing you love. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until my editor at the now defunct Almanac Weekly, Julie O'Connor, sort of bullied me into starting to do it about 10 years ago. And it was pretty obvious right from the go that, okay, yeah, this is something I can do,
Mm-hmm. So. Where'd you go to college?
I'm a SUNY brat. I went to Oswego, and then I did my grad school here at home in New Paltz, where I'm from.
Ah, so you're from New Paltz. Nice. Mm-hmm. And you come right back. Yeah, that's a great SUNY school. It's got a great reputation for sure. So a lot of great people are coming from that. What happened after college as far as your craft is concerned?
Musically?
Writing, both. It seems to
Well,
tie in both together for you.
I was lost, as people with, dual degrees in music and writing arts are prone to be after graduating. And I was at home, and I fell into the grad program here at SUNY New Paltz, which was really picking up steam. And the discipline of composition theory and composition studies was really blossoming in academic settings. And I came right into the profession at that time, and that led to 12 years of teaching college English. And, it was a great experience, but I came to the fork in the roads, which was go get the PhD and make a career of it, or try, or not. And I chose not. And any time I've made a decision like that in my life, it was always to leave more time for music, because when you don't go into something like that and then expect to have, time for a major amateur passion on the side, So I declined, and in the years I was getting pretty musically active. Now I went to work in writing in the business world, web world, that whole thing, but playing in bands and other such stuff.
Did you play in a band while you were in college in SUNY New Paltz?
At grad school I did. I had a pretty happening local band in my late 20s and early 30s. We were called Wormwood, and a bunch of the players from Wormwood are still around and active on the local scene.
Very active music scene in New Paltz anyway, right? I mean, for college?
It especially was at that time,
yeah.
Otherwise, I'd say not as much as you'd expect in some ways. But the mid-'90s was a very good time in New Paltz music scene.
Yeah. My girlfriend, one of my best friends at the time that I went to high school with, did 4 years at SUNY New Paltz, and going there on the weekends to hang with her, the scene was just really cool. I'm talking mid to later 80s, and it was a good time for sure. So talk more about, right now, I look at your bio, I'm like, I don't even know where to start with you. You've really, really seriously. I guess you mentioned you were with Almanac, which is where I think I first noticed you as a writer. And then, of course, as the Sweet Clementines, because, you guys are pretty well known here in the area. So I don't know, just talk to me about your start with Almanac. It was a long time ago, right? 10 years or so?
It was about a decade, yeah. So I was already, well on in years when I started finally doing it. But I do want to backtrack and say, actually, I don't know if you remember this, but the first time you and I met in person was when another band, New Paltz institutional band I play in called The Traps, was opening for that very talented dude, Chris Trapper, at Town Crier.
Yes,
and that was the night that we met.
Right. Oh, I love Chris Trapper. He's just such an entertainer. He's a ham.
He sure is.
Yeah.
So anyway, but Almanac and stuff like that, I guess, as I said, I was reluctant to write about music. My editor, childhood, lifelong friend, finally convinced me that it would help me make connections on the local scene. It would put me in touch with venues. All of that turned out to be true, but there's the other side of that too, which is when you're in the business of expressing your opinions, you know what I'm saying? It can go both ways. Although I don't ever really write explicitly negative reviews, I can choose to be critical without,
being negative
or without value judgment, really. There's ways to be critical and ways to make sense and make it really substantial without, yes, no, pro, con, plus, minus kind of writing. Matter of fact, I think that's a lower form of criticism, but that's just my opinion.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with you. And you've written so many great articles. I really enjoyed the last one. I'm a huge fan of David Barron, who I know you just, right, for years. I found out about him probably about a decade or so ago now, and just follow his work. I don't use this word lightly. I think the words are overused, over-dramatized, but truly the word musical genius is what I use to describe David Barron.
Yeah, and and that's not a far-fetched thing to say. Obviously, you look at the resume, you look at how in demand he is, and then you listen to the quality of what he does. And I don't know if the whole album is out yet, but he's been bit by bit releasing his solo piano record, which is a genre of music almost borderline modern classical, and it is amazing stuff. And it's just it speaks to the depth of his musicality, that he can do it arranging for an orchestra, and he can do it, on solo piano, and he does incredible pop work. And yeah, no doubt. And that whole series, the Making Records series, which is all interviews with recording professionals, has been a blast because they're all really smart, eloquent people. And matter of fact, I'm starting a conversation today for the next chapter with Scott Petito, who I'm sure you know.
Wonderful. He's been on the show several times. He too. I mean, if you look at his discography, you could talk to him literally. You could talk about it for about 10 minutes and not catch a breath of fresh air of all the people he has worked with. He is fantastic.
Yes, he is. And
yeah.
That's what I'll be doing this weekend, having that exact conversation with him. Some people prefer to write, other people prefer to talk.
Yeah,
I think we're going to do the talk thing with Scott.
Yeah.
So
super cool.
Forward to that.
Now, do you get to go to his studio, NRS recording studio, or do you do that over the phone?
That is that I started this series. COVID was already a thing, So I'd obviously interviewed local musicians, and the national musicians who reside locally. I've been in touch with them and talking with them for years, but when I had the idea to really do a focused series that gets in pretty deep, at least from a layman's level perspective, gets pretty deep into the art of recording, a little more than you might expect in a, local weekly kind of paper, there wasn't an option. I started with D. James Goodwin, Isocon Studio, another, mastermind.
Absolutely.
And then we did Julie Last, the great engineer in the Woodstock area, and Danny Bloom, Jamal Rue, the mastering engineer, and then David Barron, and now Scott. And I'm just amazed that my publishers are still interested in this series, to be honest. It's doing really well.
We have such a plethora of world-class recording studios here. We really do. There's a handful here that is just like people are coming from all over the world to record here, and
no doubt. And you've been tapping that for the whole run of this show, the recording side as well as the unbelievable player pool up here.
Yeah.
It's like I used to say, every community with any self-respect has a cafe where they have, jazz on Sundays, but you can walk into them here and it's, Jack DeJohnette. It's kind of mind-blowing, the level of all the way from that level, the legend, utterly elite level, all the way down through the professional ranks. So just the player pool up here is staggering.
It absolutely
and it's been very
is.
exciting in the last few years that the local talent has started playing locally more than they used to back in the day.
Yeah. It really is nice to get to see them. You see them on big stages, and then they come home to the Hudson Valley and just play at one of our amazing local venues as well. So I'm still blown away by the talent that we have here in the Hudson Valley from the start all the way till they are established. It's really cool to see. I had Lee Falco on the show last week, and just to watch him, I mean, he's like 25 years old, and just to watch him over the last 10 years, one can only imagine where he'll be in 10 more years. And
he's 25, but he plays like he has a command of the last 80 years of music. He's an old soul on the drums.
Yeah.
Phenomenal player, and a great producer and a great writer.
Yeah. And
he's the full deal.
Any genre you put in front of him, he'll play it. He'll play pop, he'll play jazz, he'll play folk, he'll do whatever you need him to do, and he'll do it like he's a master of whatever it is, and it's so cool. And that's another cool place he's got going on too, the Building, which is up and coming recording studio too in Marlboro, which of course was the original Falcon. So really good space. So So now you're writing, since we're on the writing thing, with Hudson with Ulster Publishing. Tell me about this.
Right.
They're a magazine. Talk more about that.
Okay, sure. It's actually not a happy story. Ulster Publishing has always been the parent company of New Paltz Times, Woodstock Times, Kingston Times, Saugerties Times, and Almanac Weekly, and the online site HV1. As you probably know, it's been an awful time for small press, local news generally. We're talking the last couple decades. They've been caught in the middle between the internet and all the other electronic news sources, and it's really been a bad time. And there had already been cutbacks, and then when COVID hit, everything shut down. We all got the notice, and everything went away. And it popped back to life pretty quickly, month and a half later, but now is highly consolidated paper publication called HV1. And so that is essentially standing in for all of the regional papers I just described and more, So it's all one paper now. And one of the things that meant for me was that I wrote for Almanac Weekly, edited by the great Julie O'Connor, which was a real culture insert. And it's a place where long form and more critical writing really made sense. And now when you're talking about the news of the entire region and these 5 papers rolled into one paper, there's obviously just not the bandwidth for culture writing generally, and especially the kind of idiosyncratic, the eccentric critical writing that I tend to do. But they're still finding a place for it. And so I get to, keep that part of my week, which is nice. So that's essentially the story there. Who knows, maybe someday the Ulster publishing empire will rise again.
Yeah. I hope so. I sure hope so. I think I'm more old school, and the older I get to be more like that. I'm still, I just love holding a paper. I just still love reading, a physical paper, and the computer. I tend to take weekends off. I try to not spend so much time in front of a computer. I do it all week. It's just nice to read a paper, read a book, and get off of that blue screen. Oh yeah. So
right. Are you a vinyl fan as well for the same reason?
I am a vinyl fan. I'm a real CD fan because they're just easy. I still have a CD player in my car, nor will I buy a new car that does not have a CD player. And therefore I might be driving my car for a really long time.
That's old school.
It is old school. I know it's horrendous. But it is what it is. So also, let's go into the music part now, because when did Sweet Clementine start?
We started around 2006 is when we actually started, and it was, I think, if you look at the arc of the life, I had been active in bands up until my early 30s, and then I had a child, and then I was musically active in those years. I was writing commercial music for multimedia and some music for theater, and getting my digital recording skills together in the age when that was just kind of new, just sort of. But I wasn't playing out, and when my child reached close to double digits, the whole nature of the of the undertaking changes quite a bit, and I just really eased my way into it, a couple projects here and there. And when I had a batch of songs, because I hadn't always been strictly speaking a songwriter, but I had a batch of songs, I was pretty excited about them. Tracked down another guitarist songwriter named Chris Tanis, and then a friend of mine, Chelsea Lacatina, a great singer, and we started a little acoustic trio called the Sweet Clementines, and our first gig, ironically, was opening for Rhett Miller.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say how that ties into that. Tell me about coming up with the name, the Sweet Clementines.
Sitting in my kitchen trying to come up with a name, we saw a box of Sweet Clementines. That was it. But I will say this: I believe that every band will eventually come to regret their name. It's inevitable. Even the Beatles, somewhere along the line, why we have to choose a stupid pun for our band name. And Sweet Clementines, I think the problem has been that people assume we're being serious with the name and that we're going to be a very sunny, whatever. I don't know how to liken it. I think I'm sure you know Gary McKeever. He said the name sounds like you're a Lawrence Welk's backup singer.
Yeah.
And so I think we meant it more ironically, but I don't think it played that way. But, there's at a certain point, you have a brand, there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I think there's a lot worse names than that. I kind of like the name. So it's unique, it's different, and it's memorable. So it's all kind of rolled into one.
Becomes what it is.
Yeah.
When you've been a band that long, you don't even question it.
So,
sound like what we sound like, and we're named what we're named.
Right, exactly, and you stick with it now. So the first time you guys played out, opening up for Rhett Miller, where was that?
That was at a comedy show at the Caneen Hackett Center near you.
Yeah, sure.
And, yeah, it was sweet, and Rhett, was enthusiastic and also enthusiastic about the name, and he's been a kind of a advocate of mine and supporter ever since, which has been a real blessing. And eventually we morphed into a full 5-piece rock band, but also with violins and vibraphones and I like to think of it as Baroque pop, but it strikes other people differently, I think. You can't really control how people perceive it. But.
Right. Now, you guys going to play out again once you're able to?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I would want to keep working with them as long as possible. I mean, I consider myself an amateur at this, but it seems to take up almost all of my time.
Mm-hmm.
But we're a kind of a unique band, and there's a chemistry that comes from playing that long that's irreplaceable. And I might want to do other things. I play in lots of bands, but you don't easily turn your back on those kind of relationships.
Yeah. I mean, it's been 15 years. 15 years
Sure.
is a long time, and you get to grow together through music as well. So these times, this past year, can you believe it's been a year? Literally been a year now. This week. Have you been writing like crazy? Like, has it been a productive, creative time for you, or has it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It certainly has. And the first track you played was Seed Project, which is a purely experimental thing that happened with myself and 5 other friends.
I love that, because you were all in lockdown.
Yeah, we're all in lockdown. We all had home recording capability and varying degrees of home recording skill. And the whole idea was, one person starts an idea, which could be anything from a guitar riff or a drum beat or a synthesizer part to, in my case, because it's more the way I work, a complete song demo with me singing it, playing it on a single instrument. And then it would go sequentially and randomly selected using an online random generator. We would, the so-called seed would move through the community of players, picking up parts as it go, and then it would come back to the originator, the seeder, as we called it, for mixing and finalization. And you played Complicate, which came out like a rock song. It didn't come out like anything pretty crazy, but there's some really crazy stuff on the 24-track record.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this like a double CD? I guess if you put it out as that, you could.
It's just it's a pile. That's the way I think of it. And what's more is there's about 10 more already. It's ongoing.
That's amazing. And I love the name Seed Project, and this is newly released too. You just released this in January.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was an interesting decision to even release it, because in some ways it was about not just staying fresh and staying creative, but it was also about staying in touch with people that we're in the habit of seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a way to kind of. But there was a lesson I took from it, which was that when you work with this, now it's a chaotic record, it's a sloppy record. The production quality is inconsistent around it. No one's putting this forward as a here is the best that all these people are capable of kind of project. It's not that. But when you work with this, act fast, don't look back, make a decision, stick with it, pass it on.
Mm-hmm.
When you act with that, you will continuously surprise yourself,
Mm-hmm.
And then when there's 6 people doing that, as I wrote in the press release that I anonymously wrote for it, it sounds a little bit like each of us, but not a lot like any of us.
Tell me who's part of the Seed Project with you.
I would love to. Well, it was founded by the drummer and songwriter Sammy Niss, and right before COVID hit, Sammy, who's played for years with the amazing singer-songwriter Laura Stevenson, Sammy got this big gig. She got a gig as the new touring drummer of the really popular indie rock band Real Estate.
How cool
and
is
she
that?
was literally about to leave for intermittent on and off year because Real Estate's one of those bands. Their touring schedule is based on the fact that the main guy has 3 small children, so they tour in little bursts. But she was about to start a year of on and off, far-flung touring when this all came down and everything was canceled. And I think, I can't speak for her, obviously, but her sense was like, got to do something.
Right.
And, started this project, which she likened from the very beginning to the drawing game Exquisite Corpse, which has a similar premise of collaborative and serial, going from one person to the next, collaborative kind of art, making.
Mm-hmm.
So Sammy was the main person. Some other formidable local musicians, Frank McGinnis from Frankie and His Fingers is in on it. Jesse Alexander from the band Battle Ave. Peter Nadeo, an incredible songwriter, guitarist, and producer. Adam Stoutenberg, and myself. Was that 6? I think that was.
I think so.
Anybody out?
Yeah.
Hold on, wait. Sammy, Frank. If I do, I'll pay for it. Sammy, Frank, Adam, Jesse, me. Who's it? Elliot, Peter. Yeah, we got it. There it is.
There you go. You got it all.
The team.
Yeah. Wow. So, and this, of course, is available everywhere, right? Seed Project.
I like to drive people to Bandcamp because I'm a believer in Bandcamp. So that's Seed Project. It's just seedproject.bandcamp.com. But it's on all the services.
Yeah, Bandcamp is good. I mean, I'm all about supporting music as well and paying the musicians and not the corporations like Spotify. But that's a whole nother conversation, I think. So as much as you can, support local, and support your musicians by going to Bandcamp or going to their websites. And in some cases, you can buy directly from musicians as well. So talk to me about Subfamily.
Well, it's the same crew that made Seed Project, more or less, and we call it Subfamily Records. It's a bit of a misleading to think of it as a label per se, because labels have A&R departments and they're out actively recruiting and looking for talent and for music that's sympathetic with what they've already put out, that kind of thing. What we really are is a little bit more of a collective. Everybody had new music almost ready to go or ready to go. And we play, there's a lot of crossbreeding, people playing in each other's bands within this little community. And the idea was essentially more collective than label. The idea was, let's make the high effort, low reward work of promoting new music in this current environment where we're saturated with it. Mm-hmm. And so much of it is good. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a super abundance of good recorded music coming out in this era. Let's make that job of just trying to get it heard a little bit easier with a little bit of load sharing. And let's throw a brand on it with a logo, call it a label, and just help each other kick our music out there. And we started in 2017. 2018 was the big year because everyone in the group had a release that year. Oh. And when that was done, we kind of slipped into a I don't know what the word is, but we weren't active for a little while, more or less, and now it's really coming active again right now with a brand new album by Frankie and His Fingers and new music from me coming soon behind that. And it's it's there when it needs to be is kind of the idea, but it's also about establishing something of a regional brand. Mm-hmm. And for instance, before the world ended, I had been booking and curating this series of Subfamily Records Presents at the Beverly in Kingston, one of my favorite local venues. Oh, nice. And we've done 4 of those, volume 4, I think, and they were getting more and more successful, and they were bizarre. Like the last one was a improvisational electronic group called Kryptonic Halo, which Scott Petito is in, and some other real heavies, Brian DeWan, David Garland. And then that was followed by Marka Young's Hudson Valley String Quartet playing movements of Beethoven's string quartets, and then that was followed by the Sweet Clementines. And Trippy Thompson, owner at the Beverly, told me it was the best night they'd had there. Wow. And so there were so many things, and at my age, you don't take this lightly. There were so many things that had good momentum going that just, bam, over.
Tell me your thoughts about when, say in 6 months, most people that want a vaccine will have been vaccinated. Things will be opening up to larger capacity. Tell me about your thoughts of the music scene and what will happen at that time.
It's funny. It's like I wonder if it's going to be super competitive at that point because everybody's trying to get it going again. I wonder if the competition competition does not describe the climate of the local music scene at all, and it's extremely collective. But there are still limited resources, right? Shows, stages, venues, weekends. Those are limited resources. I don't know if it's going to be cutthroat out there. I don't know. What I guess I'm not so worried about that. What I'm more worried about is the attitude of audiences and whether they storm back or whether there's a reluctance there. What do you think?
Why would you think there? Tell me why you would think there would be a reluctance. Because I don't know. Maybe it's just my own personal thought and not having given it a broader thought of like, oh my God, all I know is I can't wait to get back. But you tell me, why do you think there would be a reluctance?
I guess because I'm a pessimist. I'm a nihilist. I love it. No, I think it's just a variable. That's all I'm saying. I'm pretty sure that, like what David Barron said when I interviewed him, it's going to be like our Roaring '20s. It's going to be a party to end all parties.
Yeah.
So I'm going to defer to David on that, obviously. But I wonder sometimes about people's comfort level, especially if the story about COVID remains murky in any way. Mm-hmm. And it's been so politicized, as you know, and become the bone of contention in this massive social schism between how you're supposed to behave publicly, and we're looking at each other with suspicion as never before, and we're looking at each other. You know what I mean? There's a whole bunch of new civic realities. And I don't know how they're going to play out. But as I said, you're right, I'm wrong. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be like, hugging in the streets, right? That's what it's going to be.
A massive love fest. I don't go to big stadium shows very often. Mm-hmm. I don't know, like Madison Square Garden or Brooklyn or, like something like that. I don't know how quickly that will come. I think it will. I think people are just going to be so doggone happy to be able to go see music again and go see their favorite bands. I'm more about smaller, intimate music scene, but that's me, and I think see people now that go out, I mean, there's incidental live music happening at the Falcon. There's incidental live music happening at Town Crier. We just got a notice that Daryl's House is going to open again at a 25% capacity next weekend. So
that's great.
So things are slowly coming back, but some of those things never left,
True.
So I think it's going to be an interesting time, but I think it's going to, I don't know. I think people are excited about music.
Yeah. And I think just to refer back to something you said, I think Tony at the Falcon obviously had this tailor-made situation already.
Yeah, he did.
Continuing right into. And I played a couple shows there with Rhett, and I attended a couple of other shows. Fantastic. I think another venue that killed it, in the good sense of that word, was Colony, when they built that big outdoor stage and made use of that enormous backyard they had. And I went to a number of shows there. And I think every player I've talked to who played it all during the year, and I think I played 12 or 13 shows total, most of them outdoors, everyone reported an uncommon level of sensitivity and attentiveness and response from the audiences. It was really something. Mm-hmm. It was just like, even though there was a moat separating you, 30 feet, not like something you're used to as a player in smaller venues or outdoors. There's this moat between you and the audience. The listening culture was amazing.
Yeah.
During the year.
Yeah, it really was. I love the Colony too. What a brilliant idea they had out back there with the big picnic tables. Everything was so, spaced so far. It was just really well done, really well done. The stage was up high enough so you could see the band from wherever. The sound system was killer. It was very, very well done. So, yeah, I mean, at least it'll be interesting. And for the Colony and for some other places as well, you actually had more people outside than they could have fit inside at some shows. So it'll be interesting to see if like a venue like that will continue the outdoors even when they're allowed to open at full capacity. So
I think they probably will, and I think Tony, probably will continue to use that outdoor space as well. Why not?
Yeah. No, I think so. I'm excited for it. So yeah, it's a good thing. So let's talk about your solo project. Like, you don't have enough on your plate.
Well, as I said, this is, it's a little, I do play in a lot of bands, and I didn't even mention all of them, but it's a little misleading because, except for one or two exceptions in the last 5 years, I don't do touring. And all the bands I'm in are original projects. I'm not in any cover bands or occasional bands that get routine work, from weddings, parties, or even dinner music necessarily. And so there's a very limited amount that original projects can play in a region. You can only play so many times in a period of time. So even though I might be in 7 bands on paper, the booking conflicts are infrequent. But during the COVID era, I had this batch of songs that maybe I didn't think of were Sweet Clementine's type of material, or I was just looking at recording them on my own. And then I started just calling friends and calling relationships that I've built over the years and pulling people in on it. And it just got really exciting to think like I could call this person and say, hey, want to chip in a part? And like every musician I know has gotten familiar with the COVID recording routine. You get tracks, you record something, you send the track, and then someday you get a finished product back and you hear your contribution. There's problems with doing it that way, needless to say. Most organic styles of music are based at least off of a live rhythm section recording, and that's not been something that's been available to players so much this year. And sometimes, like one thing I've noticed that happened with Seed Project is if I'm a pretty loose player rhythmically, if there was a real flaw in my performance that was used as the basis or foundation of everything that followed, my flaw would get kind of propagated through the arrangement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a whole new way to think about recording. But I started doing this using the name Unitas, which is a
I'm
project
sorry.
name that I've had in.
I totally messed it up.
Is that you're not a football fan, right?
No, I'm not. Unitas.
Legendary, Johnny Unitas, American hero, quarterback. So I just started calling in people, and my main partner in it so far has been the amazing drummer and producer Jeff Lipstein, who did drums on a couple of the first tracks in, and also sound design and mixed them. And he's incredibly talented, and he's just been a great foil for me. He's got a real progressive, edgy sense of how to do things, and then Laura Stevenson has chipped in these phenomenal vocal arrangements on my tunes, which as an acquired taste as a singer, I can use that kind of help. Sarah Parada's on it. Dean Jones, the great producer and multi-instrumentalist, Grammy winner. He's on some stuff, and it's just been a hoot sending these tracks around to people I've always wanted to work with, and they're like, yeah, and this great stuff comes back, and then it's on me or me and Jeff, as the case may be, to make it work.
Oh, but, so exciting. Are you going to play out as Unitas?
I hope to, absolutely. Before COVID cut so many things short, I had been just broaching the solo performance thing, which has never been my sweet spot. I don't have the traditional singer-songwriter skill. I'm really more a guitarist first, but a lifelong songwriter and composer type. But I had really started to get comfortable with it. Was working extremely hard on my singing, and I'd had 4 shows in that context, and they had been, getting better each time, to the point where the last one was like, hey, I can do this, and this is going to be the new thing for me. And then
COVID.
Boom.
Yeah.
So yes, I absolutely hope to get back on that, and I hope the momentum is still there. But we were talking about what is live music going to be like. Well, what I was trying to book with that was house shows, those listening room shows, really attentive, small group. And sometimes those are the best paying nights for musicians too, because it's more like patronage, not like paying a cover at the door. It's more like really, So I'm hoping that will get started again, and then I would also consider putting a live lineup together if it seemed to be going that way.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds exciting. Yeah, I'm so honored that you sent a track over for us to play here. This has not been released yet. Is that correct?
Nope, still a couple months away. But I was pretty eager. I just got the final mix from Jeff. And, I was like, since I'm not on the label or anything, I am the label. Since there's no one out there who's going to object to me previewing this, I was like, let's just do it. let's tease it right here and now.
I always find that to be the greatest honor, so I thank you. So we're going to listen to Birds of Heaven after in a few minutes when you and I are done talking. I want to premiere that as well and just open it up.
Super.
And please, I'm going to say, please stay in touch. Let me know when you're out and about, because at the end of every one of my shows, I always do musical happenings and tell people where they can go see musicians in the area. So, please, anything that you're involved in, or you're playing out, or you're, producing a show somewhere, please stay in touch and let me know, because I'd love to share that with the listeners here.
You don't have to ask me twice.
All right. That's a wonderful thing. So Unitas, oh my gosh, I never would have known that. I'm glad we spoke. Yeah. Unitas. It's not Unitas. Yeah. Unitas is your new project. Yeah. The Sweet Clementines, you guys will be coming out hopefully this summer, maybe, right? I mean,
maybe outdoor shows.
Yeah. I was going to say Colony is perfect for you, as well as,
Sure.
the Falcon Outdoor Stage. How lucky Tony was when he built that deck, not even knowing.
Yeah.
So that was good. And then you're still working with Rhett Miller also?
Yeah, well, Rhett was, talk about a guy whose career was grounded by this. And
yeah.
He was just like, you know what? There's people locally that he's always wanted to play with, and the band is me and my bandmate in Sweet Clementines, Jason Sarubi, bass player and engineer, and then Rhett's longtime drummer and sister-in-law, Angela Ian. And so we have this pickup kind of band. We play his solo tunes, we play some old 97 stuff, and we do some covers, and just been, having an absolute blast with it, and it keeps rolling. And, just between you and me, I'm hoping he's going to want to maybe take us around a little bit when the climate for live music changes. But in any case, it's just been a hoot. He's such a talent, but also such a great guy.
Yeah, and also a Hudson Valley resident, another one of those that we're lucky to have here in the area. So it's good stuff. Ah, John, it's a pleasure. I want you to come back. I want to play some music now, because my time's almost up, but I want to play some of your music so we can get that out on the airwaves. And I always say, if anyone's missed part or all of this conversation, I'll upload it later. It'll be on all streaming platforms, on LocalMotion, and also on YouTube. So I thank you so much for your time. I'm really looking forward to listening to more of your works here with all the stuff you have going on, the Seed Project and Unitas and Rhett Miller. So thank you so much for your time here today. And
thank you.
You are a gift in the Hudson Valley as well.
Aww.
So we're lucky to have you, your words, your writing, your performance, and your just all around wonderful things that you do for us here and that you say for the Hudson Valley. So thank you for doing what you do. You are a big part of the scene here in the area, and thank you for being on the show today. It's so good to talk with you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rita.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I'm going to play some music now. I'll talk with you soon, John. I'll let you roll, and we'll play some music right here, right now.
All right.
All right. You take care. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye. All right. That was John Burdick. Let's take a listen to this premiere of Birds of Heaven off his solo project right here, right now on 91.3.
Free to look through your pocketbook. The birds of heaven are bound to know all that they would. Free to stay or fly away. Who would ever let go of their days so long as they're awake? The ones who can, with grace to spend, will transcend to private views behind high white walls, while most of us will soar, but just to spy, as if we must, and to cry, as we always knew we should. Tethered to the way of you, the circling, the mute, the knowing eyes of God. To their surprise, declassified the world's inside, so rich and new. And your reprieve won't set them free. This they choose, forever doubting and true. They belong to anyone for a song. The birds of heaven are keeping you wondering who they are in fall. All you did and all you do and all that you will to spare me the truth weighs on me still, but we won't wonder anymore.
91.3 WVKR, the Sweet Clementines, Bobby Mercer. We forgot to talk about that track in particular when John was on, so we'll have to do it next time. Definitely want John back. He's a wealth of knowledge of the Hudson Valley music scene here. So we also heard his new world premiere, maybe world Hudson Valley premiere of Unitas, Birds of Heaven. This is his solo project we were just discussing, Birds of Heaven. So great music. John Burdick, thank you for being my guest. And what I'm doing now, we're going to go out with one more track of his from the Seed Project. And now what we do, because it's that time of the show, we do what's called musical happenings in the event that you support live music. And there's still a little live music, and there's also lots of live streams that you can support musicians with. Let's do this in alphabetical order, starting with the Bardavon and bardavon.org. March 13th, live from Ireland, We Banjo 3. At Daryl's House in Pauling, also darylshouseclub.com. They are opening March 13th for dinner at 25% capacity. There will be a live stream March 11th, The Amish Outlaws. March 12th, a live stream with The Alternate Roots. At the Falcon in Marlborough and live at thefalcon.com, restaurant is open Friday through Sunday evenings. You can sign up for their email list for updates at liveatthefalcon.com. This Friday, March 5th, The Restless Age. Saturday, Jim Campolongo Quartet. Sunday, the legendary Sheila Jordan and Cameron Brown. At the Town Crier in Beacon, towncrier.com. Live music Friday through Sunday on the Salon Stage. Friday featuring Dan Brother Trio. Saturday, the Everly Set. And Sunday brunch with East Coast Jazz. Reservations recommended. And the Valley Hour and thevalleyhour.com. Their next concert will be March 25th, featuring Alex Waterman and Stephen Clare. Free tickets available, free sign up at thevalleyhour.com. And a huge thank you again to John Burdick, my guest here on LocalMotion today. We're going to go out with one more track of his, and I will tell you that next week my guest will be Tara O'Grady. And 2 weeks on St. Patrick's Day, blues great Joe Louis Walker will be my guest. 3 weeks, Danny Bloom, recording engineer, Hidden Quarry Studios. Really look forward to talking with him. He also has just recently worked with John Burdick. And then on the 31st of this month, thrilled to have coming back David Barron. So good month coming up. Stay tuned for all the great music. We'll go out now with a track of music. Of course, it's a track of music. Silly, right? Seed Project, available on all streaming platforms, but also available at the Seed Project Bandcamp.com. This was just released January 21st, and we're going to go out with a track. I love the track, the title of this, Mary Hart in a Martha World. So we'll leave you with that. We'll be back next Wednesday. And until then, I wish you all peace.